Oh, it's 5:30 and time to call our meeting to order for the Aberdeen City Council for Monday, January 22. Roll call, please, Carl.
Councilmember Remley.
Here.
Ronayne. Lunsman.
Here.
Slate Hansen.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Bunceness.
Here.
Olson. Rux.
Here.
Mayor Leeson.
I'm here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item, we need a motion to approve last week's minutes.
So moved. Second.
Motion Rux and second by Remley. If there are no changes or corrections, all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next on our agenda tonight, we have done this annually for many times in the past, and I see we have Mr. Helms here from the Roncalli School Board. Is that why you're here?
Yes, me and Jeff Simmons.
And Jeff Simmons, who is the superintendent of the Catholic school system. And they have asked us to declare this Aberdeen Catholic Schools Week. Whereas Catholic schools touch the future in many communities by furnishing our leaders of tomorrow with basic human, moral, and spiritual foundations. Whereas Catholic schools strengthen the future of the community and the nation by keeping viable the right to freedom of religion under law. Catholic education has demonstrated its ability to contribute to the state welfare through its history of raising levels of knowledge, competence, and experience. And whereas the Catholic grade and high schools in South Dakota are educating thousands of citizens during this school year, and whereas Catholic schools throughout the nation will be recognizing Catholic Schools Week with the theme, Learn, Serve, Lead, and Succeed. Therefore, we in Aberdeen join that and declare January 28th to February 3rd as Aberdeen Catholic Schools Week. And Corey, you were the superintendent. Want to come up and get this? And if you would like, tell us what you're doing this week here locally for Catholic Schools Week.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Mayor
Yeah.
Leeson. It's always an exciting and entertaining week for us at the Catholic schools, and have a lot of activities going on. We'd just like to thank the City Council for giving us the opportunity to acknowledge this and to acknowledge the fact that we have 3 excellent schools in the city of Aberdeen, and when the tide in the harbor rises, all ships rise with it, and we're always working on excellence at Roncalli and acknowledge the fact that the public school here is an excellent school system as well. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Okay. Have a good week. Next on our agenda is the time allocated for open forum, and tonight we welcome Justin from Northern, who has brought a few distinguished guests with him. So Justin, I will turn this over to you.
Thank you very much, Mayor, and thank you all for the opportunity. Justin Frazee, I'm the Director of Communications and Marketing at Northern State University, and I will pass it along here to Drs. Downs and Kaiser, as well as Jim Thayer.
Thank you. We're pleased to be here. We appreciate your time and interest in what we're calling a partnership. When you look at the presentation we're going to provide tonight, we're really articulating how Northern State University and the South Dakota School for the Blind and Visually Impaired is working together. And it's created what we call a capital campaign called the Educational Impact Campaign. We have this presentation which we'll go through briefly, and the presenters will be myself, Dr. Kaiser, and Mr. Thayers. First slide, if you look at this, fall 2017, I'd call this a trending slide showing that our enrollments are starting to go up in terms of head count, full-time freshmen. The student freshman to sophomore retention rate continues to go up. In fact, since this was recently published, the state actually says that our student retention rate from freshman to sophomore actually went up to 0.78. So we have to circle that number. That's very good because 78% of the students show up from fall to fall. And that number is one of the highest in the state. In fact, the second highest in the state. Residential occupancy with new residence halls, we have 44 more students living on campus. So all that we're looking at is the projection is that the campus will continue to grow in size. In terms of what's happening on campus, though, the reasons for the growth is creating new spaces on campus. It's a catalyst. So our objective is to create new spaces that will help the campus grow. It attracts students to apply. So this year, the applications for students to begin in the fall has already gone up, and we're tracking that. So everything that we're doing with our campus master plan is designed to increase the student population at Northern, make sure that the activities that are hosted on campus generate student excitement and student success and energy, which leads to retention and student satisfaction. So what we're doing with facilities isn't just for the sake of building facilities, it's for the sake of attracting students and making sure while they're here they have a great experience, and then as they become alumni, they are very much in favor of the institution and support of the institution over the years in many ways. So if we look at the projects briefly that we've actually engaged in, the Johnson Fine Arts Center was renovated at $14.2 million. It started in 2014. It was reopened again in fall of 2016. And it's a great interest point because if you look at the number of students that showed up in the fall of 17, the freshman class in the fine arts doubled. And that's not an accident. We took them into the facility and they were pretty excited. So there's a return on that investment. The next investment that we've made is Wolves Memorial Suites. So the university is paying this off with a bond. The cost of the building was $7.2 million. It's 144 beds. And all those beds were full on day one because when you build a new facility of living, that's what students want to experience when they go to college. They don't want to go into an older residential hall. They want to go into one that's new. And the design of the residence halls nowadays is very different than Jurdy Hall or an institutional facility like that. It's built so there's lots of student interaction and interaction spaces, and that helps enhance retention, which is one of our biggest issues on every college campus. And we're winning at that, but actually I want to see the retention rate go up to 80% and beyond. So the next two residence halls that are actually being built right now are roughly $23 million. It'll add 299 beds. And the pod style means they live in groups called pods. There's places to interact. There's even places on each floor to cook food. So, if you have a meal together, you break bread, you make friends, so it increases the interaction. So these two buildings will be called Great Plains East and West, and they're scheduled to open in fall of 2018. They're actually ahead of schedule. If you look at the picture on the right, there's a lower portion of the building. We're building it for the students and their needs. That's a convenience store, which also includes a Papa John's pizza, and that's not an accident. Okay, next slide. The one that you've heard a lot about that we went to the legislature last spring was the Regional Science Education Center, $25.2 million. And both the residence halls, Great Plains East and West, and the Regional Science Education Center are possible because of donations. So these buildings will be debt-free with the building, and we'll have to maintain the building as you do with any building, but that's an advantage for the university. Where this will be located will be at the corner of 12th and State Street. It'll be called the Gateway Building to Campus. So that's why it says the campus gateway at each one of the graphics presented. It's going to come down. When you're coming down State Street, that's your welcome to campus, which is a very different welcome than if you pulled up to campus and you looked at a practice field for football with a red fence around it. Really makes a statement, so we're pretty excited. One of the genesis of this is that our science enrollments have doubled over the last 10 years. So we believe that this science building will actually help us double the enrollments in science. So as a result of this campus master plan, we started to look at, well, what do we need to do next? So that's where we came up with this process of building the Educational Impact Campaign. The campaign is to support 3 projects. One is the athletic and recreation fields, which are scheduled to be completed in August of 2018. The impetus for that was where the science building is where football practice. So we're building a football practice field and a competition soccer field, which will be a turf field. So you can practice and play on the facility because it's not natural grass, it's AstroTurf. The School for the Blind has a new facility that we would build them a facility where Jurdy Hall is presently located, Jurdy Hall is not functional or desirable to the student population that we're attracting. It's old and it needs a lot of maintenance, so that will come down. And then we can put up the School for the Blind. So that's the second piece of the campaign. The third piece is the regional sports complex, which requires us to build the School for the Blind, and then we can do a land exchange. And then where the School for the Blind is located, we can build an athletic field for competition football, soccer. You can also have other events. Also, we'll have a women's softball facility, and we're also putting in parking because as we build up the campus and add more resident spaces, we need places for them to park. So those are really important pieces. So the $45 million is the fundraising goal. We've raised over $25 million to date. All the building projects have been approved by the South Dakota Board of Regents. So this is a rendering of the athletic and recreation fields. If you look at the rendering, it shows the field with the big N is the practice football field and the Wolfhead field is the soccer field. The building in the middle is what requires us to go to the legislature anytime you have a building. So that'll have 2 locker rooms, place for people to watch the games, as well as to coach the games and film the games themselves. So it'll be a great facility. What we're seeing and hearing from athletics is that we're getting more and more students that want to come here and play both sports because they know what's going on. And these fields will also be used for intramurals and student recreation, again, enhancing the student experience. So the second project in this list is the School for the Blind, and I'll turn the mic over to Dr. Kaiser so she can talk about how her facilities will make an impact in the community.
Thank you. When we talked about this at the Board of Regents, the phrase that I used, and I'll use it again with you, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us. We're in a building that's 58 years old. We came to Aberdeen after quite a controversial move from Gary. In 1961 was the first year that we had students on campus. As we're nearing our 60th birthday in that building, we're really finding that our building was built for the 1960s, which is very different from the kind of education that we have today. So this part of the building would be, we're looking at $13.5 to $15 million. We have a design team that's been hired, TSP out of Sioux Falls, and we are proceeding to work on the design. It's not been finalized yet, but we're in the process of figuring out just what we can do. It's a smaller space, and so as you look at this rendering, part of the building will be 2-story, but think about just the profile. That will be very different than Jurdy Hall, which is considerably higher on that space. So it will be 2-story in the main part of the building. The building that you see off to the right is the gymnasium, and then the residence hall is on the first floor to the east side of the building. One of the things that we're very excited about is ways to expand our collaboration with Northern. We've had we work together a lot. We have for all these years. And there are courses at Northern. It's the only place that you can get a teacher of the visually impaired endorsement in South Dakota. And those classes are taught by our senior staff through Northern. And so the students at Northern are getting really the best opportunities to be taught by somebody who every day works with students who are blind or visually impaired. That's unique in the country. It doesn't exist anywhere else, this kind of collaboration. And as we're looking forward to the future, we're looking at ways that we can expand that program into a master's, which we think will draw even more students to this area. Nationwide, they figure there's about 5,000 teachers short every year for teachers of the visually impaired, and there are a lot of us that are nearing retirement, so we need to replace ourselves. Northern will have a role in that. The second part is to really expand the program for transition, predominantly for kids who are in public school program who really need to have that another set of skills beyond academics if they're going to live and work independently in the community. So that's another big goal for us. And we really will see a return on investment because instead of going back home and sitting, those people will be ready to go into the workforce. And obviously that helps all of us. So it really is a project for the future for us. And I think it guarantees our staying in Aberdeen, hopefully for the next 50, 60 years. Our school is known as the Pioneers, and we really see this as very much a pioneering project, a time to establish a new standard, and we're really pretty excited about that. See, we'll trade places again.
So the third project is the on-campus regional sport complex, and the rationale behind this is creating this total student experience where most of the activities that they do are on campus. It creates a sense of community and a sense of excitement that draws students to want to come to Northern. So the project estimate is $24 million, and we think that it'll be completed no later than fall of 2022. It all depends on when the School for the Blind is completed. One of the things that we're real fortunate with is we have a great number of people in the room tonight, students, faculty, administrators, alumni, people on the campaign committee. They're all very much advocating for this project and where we're taking this School for the Blind at Northern State University. The total investment that we're looking at that's been made at Northern State University in the last decade will be nearly $100 million. That's pretty substantive. And then if you add on top of that the School for the Blind and the visually impaired, of an investment of between 13.5 to 15 million, that's a lot of resources that are getting funneled into the community short term for construction, which helps every city and every industry. But the long term investment is we want to keep the School for the Blind in Aberdeen. The partnership will help grow our academic programs, and the facilities that we're building will actually enhance the reputation of the institution and help us grow our student population. One of the things I learned from our city manager the other day was the valuation of the city property in the city of Aberdeen is about $1.4 billion. I didn't know that they calculated those things, should have known, but I'm not an urban planner. So if you look at an investment of $115 million into a city and a city's infrastructure, that's fairly substantive. It's ambitious, but it's doable, and a lot of it's already been done with the beneficiaries that we are of the generous individuals and foundations in the region. So the next person to present to kind of bring this to our presentation to a closure is Mr. Jim Thayers, who's also a co-chair of this capital campaign.
Okay, I get to be the guy. Mayor and members of the City Council, thank you for your time this evening. And we've heard some wonderful, great stories and information from both Dr. Downs and Dr. Kaiser, and it really is exciting. And I think sometimes there's a misconception that, these are state buildings and the state should be or does pay for these projects. And I did a little research. As most of you probably know, I'm also the newest member on the Board of Regents. But over the past 20 years, over $1 billion has been invested in infrastructure on our state campuses across South Dakota. And less than 4% of that, or about $40 million, has been come from state funds. The rest has all been private donations or paid through tuition student fees. So it's amazing that if we're going to continue for these institutions to survive and stay competitive, it's going to be up to us. And there's a lot of exciting stuff happening in Aberdeen and with these two institutions. And I feel that the city has done a wonderful job of supporting so many different organizations and structures and building this community ready. And to me, there's nothing more important, or I think has a bigger part of our community than this university. The Board of Regents and the Chamber of Commerce commissioned a study last year to find out what really is the economic impact of higher ed in South Dakota. And that report came out last summer, statewide, over $1 billion in economic impact to the state of South Dakota. I think we don't realize how important of an industry higher education really is. But Northern State alone, its economic impact to Aberdeen and Northeast South Dakota, over $229 million in economic impact annually to Northeast South Dakota. It's pretty hard to replace. And remember, it wasn't all that long ago, the Board of Regents were considering the possibility of eliminating a university or two because of budget and cost cuts, and Northern was on that short list. And I think that set in stone a lot of things to get these projects moving forward. With that, we've kicked off the new dormitories and these other buildings that you've seen here. But prior to that, the last new structure on the campus in Northern, other than the Barnett Center, was 47 years ago, the Johnson Fine Arts Center. So it's time. It's time. And so really, I think Northern brings two things and these institutions to our community. One certainly is the economic impact, but also the social and cultural piece that we have that allows us to attend ball games, to attend concerts, to attend plays, to musical events, all these that really do bring culture opportunities to our community that we would not have. That's pretty amazing that we do have for our size community. So with that, as a chairperson on this community foundation fund drive, I am here to respectfully ask that the city pledge to be an investor with us, a commitment of $5 million to this campaign. I call it the Dream With Us campaign. On behalf of a lot of other donors that have already pledged, as we shared, we're up over $25 million. And so we would ask that the city be a partner with us, to invest with us, and would consider a $5 million contribution to this campaign. Here to answer any questions that you would all have.
Okay, thank you, and I can't speak for all of the council, but our history on this council has been that we do as much as we can with the resources we have, and we've shown the proclivity in the past to finding good projects and finding a way to assist with them, and I have no doubts this council will give this the same kind of a consideration. Anyone on the council have any other questions? I think we're all aware of what's going on here, so we certainly appreciate you all coming, appreciate the efforts you've made to get it this far, and look forward to the level that we can participate and be a part of this great project.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. For those of you that came for this, we don't have much on the agenda tonight. We've got maybe 5 more minutes, so you can all either, if you all want to go now, fine, or you can wait through 5 minutes of routine business. You won't bother us if you leave. People walk out on us all the time. The next item on the agenda is consent calendar items A, B, and C, a routine city business. Need a motion for that?
Move approval.
I'd like to remove item C if we could.
All right, just A and B
Not
then?
remove it, to have it as a separate item, please.
Okay.
Move approval for items A and B.
Second.
Motion Johnson, second by Rux, to approve A and B on the consent calendar. Questions on either? All in favor, then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. We do have some bills presented for payment. Northwest Energy Utilities.
You're going to take up C?
Yeah, you wanted it separately.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you wanted just.
That's right, I
eliminate.
wasn't very clear.
All right. Why don't you tell us why we're doing this separately?
The petitioner is requesting to amend this petition to annex. They'd like to remove Lot 4, B and G of First Subdivision, Lot 1, J and G Behringer First Subdivision, and Lots 1 through 2 of the northeast quarter of Section 15-123-64.
And what's planning and zoning's impression of this?
Well, I guess planning and zoning would rather have them stay, but since this is a voluntary annexation, there's not a whole lot we can say about it. The concern that we do have is that once the main part of this annexation goes through, we're creating islands of property outside of city limits. And these islands we know will eventually develop, need city services. And I feel now's the time to bring those in order to provide those services, since we're already in the process of this. And this annexation is a precursor to a TIF request. And I think it'd just be a good faith effort by the person requesting the TIF to work with the city as the city tries to work with them on their TIF. And Mr. Tobin is here to refute that or otherwise.
David, do you have a question?
Yes. Is this vote necessary tonight? Do we have any timeline?
This is just on the consent calendar to move it forward to engineering, planning, and zoning, the other departments for their comment.
I would like to see a clean map of what you're talking about, what's being removed from this parcel.
I can do that.
Dave, I appreciate the opportunity to address, and I don't necessarily disagree with what Fred is saying. I will say that the petitioner for the annexation has a reason. We met with planning, we went through this. My client was out of state when I met with them, so I was unaware of, there's three, and I understand where it's difficult to see, but there is some real planning issues with this, Dave, because of planning and zoning meets monthly, and so if by the time we get first reading tonight, second reading next week, and then 20-day rescission period, it puts us right at the deadline to get on the next planning and zoning agenda deadline. So
Okay.
if we delay this first reading by a week, we essentially miss an entire month of planning and zoning.
So you'll have the map for us by second reading?
Absolutely.
Well, this is just on the consent calendar, so there is no.
No, there is no second
Yeah.
reading.
So if you can get a map to us so we could take a look at it before it goes to the
I can
planning.
explain which ones are out. If you look at the top portion of the map, that's 8th Avenue across the top. All of those lots along there that you've got lots that are crosshatched, those are the ones that are being taken out. And then off to the east towards the bypass, that corner is also being amended out. So anything along 8th Avenue will be out.
So it's kind of hard to see, but this is cross.
That one?
crosshatched. But these one,
Those
two, three,
those are
four-
gonna stay out.
Okay,
And then the next crosshatch,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yep, he's correct. So, part of the original proposal was going to be include this corner lot, this lot, and this lot. We've requested to take out those 3 lots. The rest of this stays in. So the bulk and what you will see coming forward after the annexation, hopefully is approved by the city, will be at planning and zoning, is a replat for phase 1 of this to turn into Aberdeen's really first west side development in a long time. There's some reasons, which I'm not at liberty to share right now, as to why it's important to not annex these 3 parcels right now. But suffice it to say, there probably is going to be good cause for them to be annexed in the future. And I don't think doing it in this fashion will be prejudicial to the city or impact ultimately what is going to happen with this development down the road.
Those lots then will not be part of any TIF?
Correct. That's exactly right. Yep.
the only portion that will is there's gonna be a stub street that comes out to 8th Avenue furthest right there, that's correct.
Yep.
That will be part of the TIF.
So Brett, then, and my impression of this is you'd maybe rather it be done a little bit different, but you're not going to oppose it.
Since it's a voluntary annexation, it's pretty tough for us to oppose.
All right.
Thank you.
Moved.
Second.
Motion Business and second by Johnson to approve item C. Other questions or comments? All in favor, then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Did bills presented for payment tonight? Northwest Energy Utilities, $12,331. NVC phone charges at the airport, $300. Residential building contractor license refund to C. Atwood for $100. UPS charges $54. Utility account refunds $101. Municipal code support fee to the Municipal Code Corp. $450. And website fees paid to Civic Plus.
Moved.
Motion Slade Hansen, second by Bunsness. Questions on any of the bills? Carl?
Councilmember Remley.
Aye.
Lunsman.
Aye.
Slade Hansen.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Bunceness. Rux.
Aye.
Mayor Leveson.
Aye, motion carries. Item B is payroll January 7 to 20 in the city share of Social Security, old age, and survivors' retirement, health, and life.
Moved.
Second.
Motion Johnson, second by Remley. Carl?
Councilmember Rux.
Aye.
Bunceness.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Slade Hansen. Lunsman.
Aye.
Remley.
Aye.
Mayor Leveson.
Aye, motion carries. City manager tells me he has nothing for his report listed on the agenda. Anything from the
Yeah, I
council,
think-
Dave?
I think with the presentation that we received tonight, we should direct Lynn to give us some idea of where he can find funds to finance this request. So we know what we're going to have to do with promotion fund requests. So I think we should direct him to come back to us with some idea of where he can pull some dollars. Now, if there's anyone out there that will buy the post office down the road for what were we asking for?
We'd take $1 million.
No, I thought it was 1.8.
Yeah.
Then we,
I just gave away our secret.
We have a library for
there's no
sale
cash
too.
there.
Anything else from anyone before we adjourn? Now we need a motion.
Moved.
Second.
Motion Bunsen, second by Johnson to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.